So as I mentioned, this is a materials lesson. I'm going to spotlight this so you guys can see it. So we're really going to practice the mark making that happens with watercolor, and we're going to really review materials. Oh, and right now, and I'm going to add myself as a spotlight because I'm going to show you my whole setup. So for watercolor, I have 1 cup of water. I've got my brushes here. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then I have not 1, but 2 pieces of paper here. These both happen to be watercolor paper because they're the backs of something. But what I want, the first thing I want to emphasize is that you're going to need a sheet of paper to do your testing on. So the thing about watercolor is if you go too dark, you can't get it off. So one of the ways to make sure, so you spend a lot more time mixing your colors and then testing them on a test sheet before actually adding them to your paper. So that will create many, like you'll see over today. So you'll always have a separate sheet of paper. Actually, this sheet of paper, your testing paper doesn't have to be watercolor paper. It can be printer paper. You know, this is scrap paper. It can be scrap, right? Like that. But you do want something where you can sort of test. You're going to be testing 2 things. You're going to be testing how your color mixes look on the paper, but more importantly, you're going to be testing your values, your darkness. Because if you go too dark with watercolor, you can't go back. So hold on, I'm cleaning up. Does anybody have any questions about that so far? So here I've got, as part of my setup, I've got these brushes. I've got the cup of water. Some people like to have 2 cups of water. Oh, and then I've got what I like to call my blankie. This is my security blankie, because this can help you wipe things off. You can see I just used a paper towel to kind of wipe off the mixing I did yesterday on my palette. This is where a lot of the mixing happens in it here. So it's nice to have that clean, because if you don't have that clean, then other colors get kind of mixed in to your palette. So that's helpful to keep that clean. But this is going to help you in a lot of ways. If you can see here, and I'll just make a mark really quickly. Say I put on a mark and it's like super dark. I'm like, ah! If I quickly go enough, I can wipe it off, right? So blankie is always with you. Also, I like to use it to squeeze off my brush in between color mixing. So you're not really going to have time with watercolor to mix your colors. You can't really pre-mix them with, you're going to be working with your brush, because that's all you really have time for. So if I'm like coming in and I'm using yellow, right? I'm putting yellow down here. Let's see. Right? And then I want to add blue, but I don't want it to be mixed with green. I'm going to dip my brush in the water, squeeze it out, and then go over to blue, so that my blue, add a little bit more water there, you know, so that my blue looks like blue, my yellow looks like yellow, and the colors aren't mixing. So there's this constant kind of pulling. You can see here as I'm reaching over. I'll keep this up for a little while just so that you can see the colors. So anyway, that's reviewing the paper. I'm going to talk to you about brushes. So this is I think it's a $25 brush, right? The Escoda. And here, actually, I'm going to pop this off for a minute so you can really see this. So this is the Escoda brush that I have been talking about. This is a synthetic brush made in Spain. Escoda is a Spanish thing. It's a 1/2 inch brush, so it's actually fairly big. I do like 90% of my brush work with this brush. The other 10% get done with these little teeny tiny pointy brushes. But I like the Perla because it can make big sweeping strokes, right? It can make little lines like that. It can blend together. You might have a brush that looks like this, but it's got a little scoop on top. It's kind of rounded. That can sometimes leave kind of roundy edges. I like the Escoda because it does not leave kind of, see, it leaves, it can be very smooth, just depending on what you want to do. And then the detail work is like done with little teeny tiny brushes. So, so I would say, let's just start. And I'm going to talk about this. Let's talk about the palette. Palettes come in many different shapes and sizes. What's really awesome about this palette here, let me put it front and center. It's super cheap and light. These paints are all like a year old. So what I really like about a watercolor setup like this, and I use tubes, you might use pats, that's okay. Both of them are fine, is that I keep the same color always in each palette. So for example, let's see, I'm out of burnt umber. I'm going to put a little bit of burnt umber. Here's some burnt umber in a tube. I'm going to put a little bit of burnt umber here. Right. And if I don't use it all, it will dry fairly quickly. And then I can just shut this thing and then open it up the next time. So it is helpful to have a palette which has enough little cases in it that you not only can like keep your different colors, you might also actually write on the back of it, right? Like you might just write burnt umber. You might write the colors so that you remember them on the back of it. So like I said, some palettes are round, some are like some are ceramic, some have less spaces, some have more. But you should, if you're struggling to write on it, you can always write on a piece of tape like this, right? And then label. It's a good idea to get to know because you won't waste so much. You'll have all this paint that you can use. To like get to know what your colors are. So I like to have at least this many. And these little areas, these little troughs are for mixing, because you're going to do a lot of mixing when you're adding colors to, and we'll practice that a little bit. So here's where you get to do your mixing and blending of colors. So far, does anybody have any questions about these materials? Do you have them all? Hi, Tashween. And hi, Janet. Who else is here? Hold on, it's hard for me to see.
Hi.
All right. So does anybody have questions about that, or is that clear? So that's what this setup is all about. Tell me if you've got any questions. All right. So I know you've been dying to do this. I'm going to put this on the side here. And I want you to start by just taking a flat, a brush that you think you'll be using a fair amount, taking your brush. And I want you to just practice applying color in random mark making patterns on your paper. I want you to just play with that. Practice without any intention. It might be the best painting you do of the night. You never know. We haven't really gotten into color mixing yet, so I won't take any pictures. I just like literally want you to see how much. Notice how often I am. Oh, wait, sorry, you can't see me there. Let me find myself again. Notice how often I am dipping my brush in water. Notice as I'm using different brushes now just to kind of show you. Just spend a moment getting to know what the watercolor brush does. See how often I have to dip my brush in the water? All right. I could use a little bit more ultramarine blue. And as you're doing it, I'd love to hear your thoughts about watercolor. What are you noticing about it?
What do you do with all the cat hair that gets caught in it?
That's the story of my life, Jean. I have so many gadgets here. I have one of those air purifiers. I have like, anyway, I have rollers. I've got so many things, and cat hair still gets in everything. I want you to notice how the watercolor, notice a couple of things. Notice how as the watercolor dries, it lightens a little bit, right? It tends to lighten in color. Notice also that the texture of watercolor paper kind of creates a little bit of a bumpiness and an unevenness often to your stroke. And that's really beautiful. I think that's why people love watercolor. I think the mark making is very lovely. Look at this. I could put this on eBay and probably sell it for $100. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to, but I'm saying there is a kind of loveliness about watercolor marks that I think people really love. Okay. So take a minute and let me know what else you're thinking. Is anybody enjoying this? Do you like watercolor? What are you observing about it?
It's so completely different than acrylic.
Completely.
It's completely it feels different. It looks different.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at how, if you use a lot of water, the more water you use, look at how I'm just adding water to my already dried acrylic. Look at how the water kind of makes things blend together. See, the more water you add. So here's a couple of things to notice. Your brush always has to be wet, but notice that if you want kind of a more solid dark color, you need less water. If you want that to become lighter, whoops, you dip it in water again, right? So you can lighten color by using more water. However, the problem with using more water is that it tends to drip and bleed a little bit. So that's why testing is really important. If I'm wanting to make sure that my color has a certain consistency, I'm just moving this over here for a second. So say this is my testing area, right? Sure. Okay. Yeah, so if you're having trouble getting on the WhatsApp chat, I can go ahead. We'll deal with that later. Sorry. So notice this is my testing area. If I want to make sure, say I want to like do a pink flower, right? And I'm like, oh, I don't want it to be that dark. So I start over here testing, and then I drip, and then I test again. Okay, this is the kind of level of lightness I want. And I want a little bit, right? I want it to be a little bit less drippy. So I might tap my brush after. So let's see. Let's start again. I'm going to start here. Okay, too dark. So I dip this in water. That's more the color that I want. But it's still kind of wet. So I might tap it over here before I come over here and lay it down. I can also take my blankie. See why I call it the blankie, right? To kind of catch drips if I don't want the drips, or I might just let those drips fall and see what happens. Watercolor is definitely one of those things where there are more fails than, that it's easier to fail, and that's okay, right? So So that's part of what's happening here. I'm just seeing who's on here. You guys are awfully quiet today, so I'm just checking to make sure nobody has any questions. Any thoughts? Are you liking this? Notice that once watercolor has dried, you can go back over and make it a little darker. So the way to deal with the fact that watercolor, you can't go too dark is to build your layers up, your dark layers up very lightly and slowly. So your dark layers might look like this, dry even lighter. And then when it dries over, you can go back over with slightly darker. Right? If you're still like, oh, that's too dark, you can still sometimes tap it out. But in general, as long as you start with kind of a light wash as your layer, then you can layer on as it dries. And it does not take that long to dry. And look, this started out, see how dark this started out, and it became much lighter. Okay, so I'm thinking we should talk a little bit about color theory. Now, for those of you who have taken painting with me before, this might be familiar to you. Let me know if I'm explaining it too much. I feel like I never am explaining this too much here. And this is where I'm going to start taking photographs because I want you to be able to see the colors. And I want you to be able to see the color mixing that's happening. I'm going to skip this over just a little bit so we can see both. All right. So you can follow along with me and do this as I'm doing it. Grab my blankie. So there are 3 primary colors, of which all colors are made. There is yellow. Notice how I'm dipping my hand in the brush. There is red. And there is blue. Right? These are the primary colors. And if I mix them, if I mix red and blue right here, so see how I'm picking up a little bit of red and then a little bit of blue in my, I just went from red to blue, and now I'm mixing it together here. And that's purple. I'll take a picture of this in a second so you can see this. Okay, cleaning out my brush. Red and yellow is orange. If I don't want those to mix, I'll come up here, right? So I've got yellow, I've got a bit of red, I'm mixing them together. I like more yellow. And maybe I'd like it to be a little bit wetter, right? And I get orange. I actually have orange down here too, but I wanted to show you how to mix red and yellow, right? And then if I mix red, yellow and blue, I get green. So blue. Notice I'm doing these in separate places so that they don't, here, get enough yellow. There we go. Add more water. I get green. Okay, so these are the primary and the tertiary colors. And the important thing to know about them, besides the fact of how to mix them, is that these, and these are very important complementary color pairs. So go ahead and make one of these circles the way I did. I'm going to take a picture. And I'm going to write down all the colors if it isn't obvious. Let's see, yellow, blue, red, purple, green, and orange. And then we'll talk about the pairs. So here, I'm going to take a picture of this so you can see this. I'd like you guys to make one. Okay. Here, hold on. There we go.
When you were mixing the paint, were you washing the brush between picking up each color?
No. But I was grabbing little dabs of color.
You did between the three primaries, didn't you?
I did between the, I did when she's asking when I was mixing. So when I was mixing red and blue, I went to red, I dropped it, and then I picked up a dab of blue and I pulled it in. Because I wanted to mix those colors together. So no, I did not. However, I do pick it up between mixes. It's a really good question.
So you're not worried about getting the red and the blue when you pick up, or you just use a separate side of the brush?
I'm not really worried about that too much. You could use a separate side of the brush. Also, I can take my, like the red's kind of getting absorbed into that blue. It's not really that problematic. Here, the yellow was the biggest problem. See, I can take my blankie and tap out a little bit of the extra, the other colors that are coming in. So give me just a second. Guys, go ahead. I'm in the middle of the class. Come back and we come back at 5. Girls come back at 5. All right, I'll see you next time. Yeah. Bye, girls. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, okay, Addie. I see. Let me just add you. I should have guessed that. You're our only Montana person. I'm just going to add you on your dad's phone. Addie. Dad. Okay, Addie, I'll just add you on this. Can you look at it if I add you to the thread? Let's see. We shall see. So Addie, you should be in there. All right. So I'll send this again. How's it going? And ask any question. Do not think any question is, this is a materials class particularly. So before we get into some serious painting, which we will next week, starting next week, ask any questions. And those of you who are not working on watercolors should just send me whatever you're working on. And when I get a chance, I'll take a look at it. We're going to get the watercolor people set up. Is anybody liking it so far? And if you aren't having problems, please take a picture and send it over. Your first assignment. Nice, Janet. You're using phthalo blue there, eh? Or is that turquoise? Why am I not?
It's whatever came in this cheapo set I'm using.
Jean.
In the
Nice.
Yarka set.
Nice. Oh, I like the Yarka set. That's actually fun. Toshween, nice, nice. Grant, good. Good. So Grant, what color red are you using? Is that Quinn red? What red are you using?
It is Windsor red.
Windsor red. Notice it's kind of shifting the color of the purple a little bit, right? Because it's got a little bit more yellow in it. I can see it in the color. So it makes a very vibrant orange, but it's going to make a slightly muddier. It's okay. It's just notice that's happening.
Gotcha.
So what I'm
talking. What
talking.
did you use? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll talk about that now. Let me talk about that. So this is a really good time to talk about the different reds. So I used something called quinacridone red, Quinn red, which is a cool red. And the reason I did that, the reason I did that is that if I use cadmium red, which is a very delightful red, don't get me wrong. So this is cadmium red. Cadmium red is a warm red. I think probably even on the lousy Zoom screen, you can see this. Let's see, let me label this. This is CAD red. So a cool, so you'll see if you look at these right next to each other, and I'll send you a picture in a second. CAD red has a lot of yellow in it. Quin red has no yellow in it. It's got blue. It's a little bit bluer. So that makes it a cool red. CAD red has yellow, which makes it a warm red. So if you mix CAD red with blue, if you mix a warm red with blue, like here, so here's cadmium red, and here's a touch of blue, I'm going to get a very different purple than if I use a cooler red. This purple is almost gray. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just to notice if you're having frustration, each of these colors has a warm and a cool variation. We'll talk about that more. Daylight spectrum. I don't remember. Jody, that looks good. I don't remember, Tashween. Let me think about that. I'll think about that. There we go. So here's CAD red. Look at the difference in the reds and the purples. Look at the difference. A daylight spectrum, yes, I believe is what I said. Looks good. So just notice that not all reds are equal. There are warm and cool variations, and they'll make different mixes. That's why we have them both, because sometimes we want this kind of purple and sometimes we want this kind of purple. Has everybody sent theirs over? Okay, so I know I'm a broken record here, but some of you are new and have never heard this before. So these three pairs, 1, 2, 3, are complementary colors. And they're important for a lot of reasons. Complementary colors. You're going to hear me quiz you on this. Of course, you do not have to remember anything I say. You're not being graded. But color pairs. Okay. So 1 is yellow and purple. And I've circled them because they are complementary because they exist across the color wheel from each other. 2 is green and red. That's kind of easy to remember, I think, because of Christmas. And 3 is blue and orange. So you will have seen these color pairings a lot. High schools use them a lot. Sports teams use them a lot. And the reason is that if you put, let's see if I can do this. If you put, I can already see I need more yellow. Let me get more yellow here. If you put yellow, if you put complementary colors next to each other, now I'm going to clean the brush. I'm going to clean it pretty thoroughly because I don't want them to mix. Nope, I still have yellow on my brush, so I'm pulling that off to make sure I don't have any more yellow. To dip it off a couple times. Let's see, purple. I do have to mix my purple. If you put complementary colors next to each other, they pop. They pop each other forward. If you mix them together, I'm mixing now yellow into my purple. I'm mixing a little bit more purple. They make a kind of gray color. So this is the colors next to each other. This is the gray that happens when you mix them together. Kind of a grayed down version. Both of these things are really important here. Let me take a picture of this just so that you can see this. Both of these things are really important. So this is yellow and purple separately. This is yellow and purple combined together. Because if you're painting something that's yellow and it has a shadow on it, you are not going to paint that shadow black. You're going to mix complement of the yellow color in to create the shadow color. That makes sense? So you're going to be doing that quite a lot. So the first exercise I want you to do, anywhere you've got room on your paper, I might have to switch over and get myself some more paper here. The first thing I want you to do is to show me your 3 color pairings next to each other, green and red, like this. And I want them to be right next to each other. You could pick any red you want. If you happen to have green, you don't have to mix it. If you don't, go ahead and mix it from blue and yellow. But if you happen to have a green, right, here's green. I want you to put them right next to each other, like adjacent, not really with a space between them. So maybe kissing, but not really mixing. And then I want you to show me underneath what it looks like to mix them. So I want you to do that with all your colors. So there's red and green. Let's see. Blue. If you've got orange as well, you know, if you've got other colors, if you don't have to mix your colors, that's okay. Like I have an orange here. So I'm just going to go right in and pick up that orange. Blue and orange. And then I'm going to mix them together here. So going back to your question about whether I touch the color, whether I clean off my brush between mixes, what I try to do is if I've got a color that's lighter, like the orange color, I try to pull that first and pull it off into the plate before I go into the blue, because I know the blue is more likely to absorb the orange than the orange is to absorb the blue, if that makes sense. All right, and then yellow and purple. So show me that you can mix. Each of these times I've got a kind of yellowy color. I'm trying to push a little bit in the different direction. So you're going for the 3 complementary color pairs, and I'd like to see them touching or very close to touching, but not really blending into each other. Might be harder than you think here. There are the 3 pairs. And I'm going to go grab a little bit more paper. I'm going to grab a little bit more watercolor paper, guys. I'll be right back. So how's that going? Tashween, always the brave one. This looks great. That looks great. Good and good work. Good job getting those right next to each other, but not blending together. Because you probably know, Tashween, what kind of edge that is. It's the same edge that we use in acrylic painting. That's a hard edge. So it's important that you're able to make one. Some people struggle with this. Sometimes this is hard to control your brush enough to make a hard edge that doesn't bleed over into your soft edge. I'm cleaning up my mixes.
My colors were too muddy to start.
So that shows you don't have a lot of room to
Just
play around
freehand.
here, right? Things got to be cleaner than in acrylic. And the reason they have to be cleaner is that like they dry so quick. Nice, Jody.
One of the top left is like I blended the red and the green together, but then they sort of unblended as they dried.
I saw that. Yeah. So sometimes that happens, right? So and it's probably you didn't have enough water in there. However, it kind of looks neat, doesn't it? I kind of like the look of it. So a lot of arting is happy accidents. So I guess that's the great thing about watercolor. Like things happen and you're like, I totally didn't even mean to make that happen, but it looks really cool. So it'll either make or break your painting, like one or the other. It's kind of fun. I often think I am not a control person. Like I like kind of letting go of control of the art process. I'm a control person in a lot of ways, right? Of course, I want to drive safely, and I don't like to make my life too chaotic. That's actually a lie. But anyway, in general, I like a modicum of control in a lot of areas. But in art, I always appreciate the opportunity that I might do something accidentally that will be beautiful. So I'm always looking for that. I'm also aware that means like I might make something that wrecks the painting, but like I think that's okay. And that's okay. I think in the seeking of beautiful things, and I don't know what the beautiful thing is. I just know it might happen in the process of laying the marks down, just like Jody showed us. So that is all good. Until, unless it's not what you wanted to do. Jean, good. Yeah, so good. Jean, I want you to put your paint swatches right next to each other. No space between them. Because you guys know what I'm going to talk about next. We're going to talk about hard and soft edges. Let me spend a little time talking about that. So once again, there's the hard edge, which is, let's see, do a really dramatic one. A hard edge is where there's a very strong line between two values. Oh, and let's talk about value for a second, right? Value is the lightness or darkness of any color. So if this is a 5, this is probably a 3. So we notice shifts in value. And when there's a shift in value, there's one of two things happening. There's what we call a hard line, like this, or there's a blended line, a soft edge. Oops. So yeah, so now now Jody, I've got a bit of green in my yellow. You either have to clean that. There we go. That's a little better. Also, my water's getting muckier. So here, a soft edge is like this. It starts like a hard edge, and then I go vertically between. So both sides have to be wet. And I'm kind of tapping away the solid line. See that? So there's a transition from hard to soft, but it's not this straight hard line. There's a kind of softening. And it's easy to kind of push in. It's trickier to do with watercolor than acrylic, so I want you to practice it. I'll take a picture of this. So I want you to practice some hard and soft edges. We do have an assignment today. Sorry, soft edges, hard edge. And this is really the knit and purl of painting. That's all there is. There's hard edges and there's soft edges. There's blended edges. So fill your paper with hard and soft edges. Interesting. Yeah, this is watercolor, but not very good watercolor. I think I ran out of watercolor paper. I have to go get some more. That's funny, like all artists, I have very specific brands and types and things that I like. That's basically what I gave you. You guys will find as you get more experience that there's brands and types and things that you like. Well, this is what I got, so this is what we're using. Okay. Let's see. There you go, Jean. Perfect hard edges. Very nice. Perfect. Perfecto. Now let's see some soft edges. I always worry when people get too quiet that I've turned the volume down. I assume you can hear me. Can somebody say something so I can hear you?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you. Got it. Thanks, guys.
Random question. How much should watercolor paper cost?
It's not cheap.
It was my first trip to the art store, so I was kind of like, is this really $1 a sheet?
Yeah. It's not cheap, but it's cheaper than pastel paper.
Okay.
But it makes a huge difference when you're painting. So it's worth it. I also buy a big page and then cut it in half and use 2 smaller pieces out of it.
See, there's the hack. That makes sense.
And if you hate your painting, turn it over and use the other side.
Yep.
How's it going?
We're discussing the cost of watercolor paper.
Anybody enjoying observations? So Addie, I feel like your yellows particularly are getting pretty muddy. If you're using a pan, you may want to take some water on a blankie and dip it in the water here. So see, I'm dipping it in my water here to get it wet and cleaning off the top of your layer so that you can get some of that, you can clean up the paint. and get to some of the cleaner watercolor. So you might want to just scoop that off. This is why I like working with tubes. I can just keep replacing this with more paper. But I think the marks are very pretty looking. I like it. So I think, Jean, I want you to work on your, I love the blending that's happening here. I think you're starting to get to it here. But can you see how tricky it is? It's easy to lose it here. Like that you've just moved the line over. Did I do it again? All right. So keep practicing this. Ooh, Jane, Jody, not bad. Tashween, not bad. It's hard, isn't it? Hard and soft edges are, you thought like acrylic hard and soft edges were there. It's tricky.
Leah, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
Is it better to blend the light into the dark or the dark into the light?
that's a really good question. I usually try to blend light into dark, but of course it depends on what you're working on, right? So what you see the edges doing. But in general, I would bring light into dark just because the dark tends to overwhelm the light. And everything dries in like 10 seconds, and then you're like stuck with, you know, lines that you can't get rid of and that kind of thing. There will be exceptions.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah. Is it fun? It's kind of neat, isn't it? Is anybody having fun?
I'm digging it.
Good. I'm going to give you your assignment now, which you're going to work on for the rest of the class. We've got about an hour. So let's talk about that for a second. I'm going to get rid of this so you guys can see what I'm doing. Remove the spotlight. Okay, so those of you who have been with me long enough have probably seen this sketch I'm about to do. You're going to do a sketch. It's basically a circle, right? And then a straight line kind of through the bottom part of the circle. This is really a sphere sitting on a table. And then there's a shadow. So the light is coming from this direction. And as it hits the sphere, this is like super light. And then as the sphere starts to turn away, it gets slightly darker and darker. And then this is darkest. So this is a great, I want you to sketch this, but it's also the moment to talk about value. Value is the lightness or darkness of any color. So if 1 is a light, nothing, and 5 is dark like that, 2, 3, and 4 are gradually getting darker. Shades of gray, if you will. Right? So these are all. So in shading terms, this is a 1, 2, 3, 3 to 4, and this is a 5. So as things go away. So in watercolor, you are going to paint one of these spheres. You're going to draw one of these spheres, and then you're going to try and paint it with a soft blended edge. So I have some, and if you get one done, I want you to do it again. This is really, don't expect this to be exactly satisfying. You're not going to come up with anything you're completely excited about. Next week, we'll start painting something, a physical thing. But I want you to practice this idea of creating a soft edge. So your sketch, once again, is going to be a circle. Here, I'll take a picture of it, a circle. And I'm very lightly kind of sketching out the area that's not going to be painted at all. This is going to be kept white. And then this is going to be a light. This is going to be like a 2. This is going to be a 3 to 4, right? This little bit is going to be a 2. So I'll show you how to achieve that. And then this is going to be a 5. So you can use any color. What I'd like you to do is pick a color, and then you're going to mix the complement in to make things darker. So for example, if I'm working with red, now let me show you this. I'll take a picture of everything so you can see it, but let me demo. Here are some suggestions. So number 1, I have something that is not my paper that I'm testing on. So I'm thinking about making mine red, but before I go in there and paint it, I'm checking here. Okay, this is, oh wait, you can't see that here. Hold on. Let's see. Up here. This is actually a different sheet of paper. So I can test this. I can see it's too dark to start with. Okay, that's much better. It's much lighter. So I'm going to come in here and paint everything. Notice I'm actually pulling a little bit of color. Everything is going to be, the whole sphere, except for this white part, is going to be painted a kind of very light shade. I can do that with the shadow too. I can make it a little bit darker. So let me take a picture of what that looks like. So go ahead and get to that point.
Does it matter what color we use?
No, just mix the complement for, yeah, pick whatever color you want. You'll just use the complement to make it lighter, but make sure it's very light, whatever you've got. Okay. And then once you've gotten to this point, now I want to go a little bit darker. Still kind of on the dark side. Yeah, I think it'll work. I'm going to grab my blankie just in case. Yeah, I can go that dark. So see how I can layer in the dark, but I don't want it to get too dark here because this is the lightest area. So from here to about this light pencil mark, I've got this color. And then quickly before it dries, I'm adding a touch of green to the red, So I'm over here mixing that on my palette. And then I'm trying to kind of blend that in, creating a soft edge, soft as I can. If I felt like that looked too muddy, I added more orange. Oh, that's pretty dark. So I want to make sure not to go too dark at first. So I'm using more water. And then I'm going to leave this little edge here. See how I'm painting like the dark right up to the edge? So basically you're going from light to medium to dark. I'm kind of gradually getting a little bit darker until you get to the very edge here. And then you want this to be, this little area to be kind of a 2. That's called a lost edge. We'll talk about that more if you want to. And maybe I even want this to be a little bit redder. It's not easy. So see how I'm kind of gradually layering in my darks? Maybe I even want this to be a little bit. And I'm not only doing that, I'm kind of going from a pure color to a kind of blended color. And then my dark, in fact, if you want to do this first, you totally could. That's, you know, I like to use, you can use the same colors and just make it darker, or you can mix ultramarine blue and burnt umber to create a really dark. So your goal is to create, I'm not saying it's going to be pretty. Something that gets gradually darker. And the challenge is you can't, right? Like if you go too dark here, you can't go back. Now I'm adding other reds in. So it's a soft edge. Just gradually gets darker. So just do your best with this. Sometimes you can take water, just water, to kind of blend the edge up. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Anyway, this will definitely take up the rest of your time, trust me. Yeah, there we go. It's also possible I may have gotten too dark on this layer. Maybe I can pull off some light. Yeah, but now the line is too, I'm using my finger to see. Anyway, play with this concept. I'd call this moderately successful. I wouldn't even call this totally successful. So not bad, Jean. I want you to mix the complement in when you're doing your shading. That's the tricky part of this. So this part is just red, and then down here it's red and green. So this part for you should be blue, and that should be orange or green, red, or whatever it is that color is, green or blue. You should mix a little bit of the complement in with it as it gets darker. So I want you to fill your paper with spheres. Practicing different strokes. And then I promise you next week, we're going to start drawing subjects. And actually the subjects we will start drawing are white subjects, because because white is really influential and important in watercolor. We need white. We need unpainted areas in our watercolors. So that is what we're going to practice with first, is how to paint a white subject. try them in all the different colors.
Sorry, does that mean we need white paint?
Nope. It means you're going to leave the paint. It means you're going to leave the area white, just like you're doing here. So white, you are not going to need any white paint to paint a white subject. You're going to use your white of your canvas to be the white, the whitest parts. Hey, Janet, Open Studios is happening this year. We're 90% sure we're going to have studios open.
You're going to be in person?
Uh-huh. I mean,
Oh.
unless something terrible happens, you know, like unless it's just, but yeah, I'm 99% sure we're going to be in person.
Michelle wants to come out there.
Should I block off a weekend for you guys? A week?
Yeah, why don't you? I'll talk to her about
Yeah,
it.
talk to her about it. I'll send you the dates, and then you should spend a little bit more, enough time so that I can take you out other places as well. So not just like 3 or 4 days, maybe
Can
a
I
week.
invite myself?
Mm-hmm. The house can
Yeah,
probably fit 3 of you, as long as somebody doesn't mind sleeping on a fold-out bed. Yes, isn't it sound nice to go out and just watch art,
Yeah.
look at art, go into art studios, look around, look at people making arts. Janet came last year. It was really 2 years ago. Sorry, last year we didn't do it. Last year we did an online thing instead, but Janet came 2 years ago, and it's really amazing. It's a very Portland thing.
I don't have any wall space left.
You're gonna have to get a bigger house.
I'll have to have a rotating gallery.
Totally. Hey, is there a way for me to see the recently updated gallery, art gallery that TR just put up, or is that just an just an inner office thing?
That's a good question. You could ask Erica.
I'll send her a note.
I don't think there is a way, but she might know a way.
I just like to see how it looks.
Yeah.
But it would be great. I would like to at least send it out to Reuters people to be able to see. You know, the people who like people who are doing the art classes, coordinators. It would be nice to send that out. It's a good show. This is not the most beautiful thing, so don't be frustrated if it doesn't turn out exactly gorgeous. You're practicing mixing and blending. Spheres are painting spheres in any material are never really that fun, but they're such a good practice for soft edges. I'm making my things light enough too. Let's try a different color. Let's try blue. If you're wanting a mellow, if you're mixing blue and orange and you want a mellower mix than like using bright orange and blue, which can make this kind of crazy greeny thing, you can also use burnt sienna, which really can be orange, can work as an orange. It's a more subtle shift, but that works as a complementary mix.
I sent another one.
Okay, hold on a second. I'll see if I can. Un momento, and I will. I'm just seeing if there's any advice I can give you guys on how to make this work better. This one's a little bit better. There we go. Let's see. Oh, nice, Jean. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard to get it right.
Opposite color.
Good effort, Jody. Notice how easy it is to get too dark, right? Up in this area. That's the really tricky part, is not to get too dark and then also to create a soft edge. Super hard to do. It's a practice. Addie, I'd say the same thing, not bad. Oh, now that one, Jean, not bad at all. You could get a little darker though. You need to get a little darker down here. So yeah, just keep layering the darks in and stopping at this certain point where you don't get any darker. Nice. It's interesting, isn't it? Mark making is just completely different. Unless you think we won't be dealing with this, if you think about it, an apple is kind of rounded, right? So if the light's coming from here, we usually have a light. So if I'm drawing a red apple, and let's see, the top here is going to be lighter, the side darker. Now I'm blending reds together to try and get the red I want, but I'm being careful to layer super lightly. So if this is a red apple, I'm leaving this part. I might even put, it's too dark. Okay, so if I can get a little bit darker. So there's the light side of the apple. And then here we come. Into the shadow side of the apple. There we go. Right, so this is all coming into play. This is all coming into play as we paint real subjects. Right, so even if we're painting an apple. Ooh, nice, Jean. Grant, good. Yep. Grant, it's for you. This is for you. I told Grant before class, I hope you don't mind my saying this, Grant, that he defies every, the things that he is good at as a beginner are all the things I think are the hardest things to do. So the things that I would like to start people on last are the things that he does better. Ooh, nice. Oh, that's beautiful. Jody, you nailed it. Nailed it. Do it again. Do it again. That's amazing. Wonderful. Wonderful. You're like, I don't know if I can, right? Fantastic. You're a natural. Oh, that's getting better, Addie. It's better. This is still too hard a line. Try and soften this line. Maybe try a different color combo. Yellow and purple is really tough. Try blue and orange. That might be a little bit easier. You can do the apple if you want to, too, if anybody wants to. Nice. It's kind of fun, isn't it? It's strangely meditative. I notice y'all are a lot more quiet than usual. In a good way. This is good. I feel like people are really practicing this medium. I think I'm also going to send this video to everybody who was in yesterday's class because we didn't have remotely as good instruction because the internet kept turning off.
I think you brought Jody in as a ringer. That's way too. He's never-
Hey. Try it in all the colors. Try the apple if you want to. Try an orange, which is basically just like a round sphere sitting on a table. Try an orange. Try some simple objects. Try lemons we're going to do because lemon is its own thing. Lemon is a whole thing. Painting lemons. Number one, people just love it more than anything.
Except turquoise.
Yeah, they love turquoise, but they also love lemons. It is a practice. We're going to be doing the same thing in class tomorrow. So if you want more practice, at 8 a.m. PST, 11 a.m. EST, please feel free to join in. We'll be doing this again. And it's funny, even when I rarely, when we get into doing subjects, I will not do the same subject 3 times. You'll have options to do different subjects, but you know, this is a basics course. It's interesting how every day I teach this, it's a little different. So I'll probably remember something or forget something, or it doesn't hurt to actually try it several times. I don't know if you guys find you're like that. I find each time it's a little bit different. I think about different things. Has everybody been vaccinated?
I've got number 1.
All right.
Have you?
No. Technically, I'm not supposed to be able to get vaccinated until May, although I'm told by everyone now there's places I can go in Portland now to get or in neighboring towns where there's extra vaccines. But no, I haven't been told officially I can do it yet. So, Ringer Jody, since you're new to class, why don't you tell people a little bit about how you found out about us?
Yeah, I just kept getting emails saying that we have a thing called Art at Work, and I kept thinking, oh, I hope, I hope it doesn't go. I'm completely new. I started in September remotely, so I haven't actually met any of my coworkers face to face.
How strange.
So yeah, I didn't know if it was a thing that was started because of the pandemic to like give people something to do, or I had no idea. And I just thought, well, I should jump on this before it goes away. And then I just never did. And then I thought, well, now's as good a time as any. So
Absolutely.
but it's been going on a while then.
Yeah, we've been going like 4 years with
amazing.
Reuters. BuzzFeed just joined us this year, and the LA Press Club joined us last year. But Reuters has been doing this for maybe 5 years, Janet? I don't know. I can't remember. It just seems like a million years ago. And
Jody, who did
yesterday.
you work for?
Who did I work for before Reuters?
Who do you work for now?
I work for Reuters, you mean my boss?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
it's
legal.
Alexia. Yeah, Alexia Garamfolvi on legal. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I mean, as awkward as it is starting remotely, it's been a great move, and working with people has been awesome.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
this socializing without being face to face.
It's kind of nice, isn't it?
Get more people to join.
Yes, let legal know.
I will.
We
I'll
have
preach
plenty
the
of
gospel.
room. We have plenty of room in this class. We can fit up to 30 people. So,
Okay.
and people don't need to be able to hit every class. We've got a YouTube. There's a YouTube channel. I'll send you the link so you can find it, where all the classes are posted. So I'm recording them. I'm recording this one, and it will go up probably in a day or two once it gets edited. And then so you can pick up any class that you missed. Toshween is a big video class user, right, Tosh? She's still here.
She's not going to admit it now.
She does a lot of videos. She's always asking me for like the link to this, get me on the WhatsApp thread. Let me see all the things. So no, she might be doing something else. Anyway, that works. I don't know who else is it. June, you've used a few videos, right?
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, so you can catch up on things. But the idea is these are kind of drop-in, so you don't really need a lot of experience.
Yeah, very cool. I'll tell people, because I also didn't know, like, being a stone cold beginner, just
yeah,
like
could you
whether
do
it's
it? Yeah. A stone cold beginner. I like that.
Anna, I can tell from your work you're lying.
Well, I mean, it's if you ascribe anything to nature. My sister's actually, she's an artist, but that doesn't mean I have any. Maybe it's genetic in some way, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me talking myself up too much.
It's that Leah's such a good teacher.
The idea is
exactly.
The idea is you can be a stone cold beginner, for sure. Like, the idea is that these are classes for people who aren't necessarily artists, but love to do art. That art is for everyone to do, I guess, is the simplest way to put it. And then you think you're not an artist, and then you do stuff, and then you realize you are. And for some people, that's a life-changing thing. It was for me. Changed me.
Hi,
What are
Does I say hi?
Hi, Diana. Did you just come on?
Yeah,
Awesome. Are you working?
yeah.
Yes. Nice to see you.
I started a new piece. We'll see how that goes.
Wonderful. So sorry, Jody, what were you saying? Did you have a question?
oh no, I was just wondering what everyone else's favorite mediums are.
Ah, yes, let's go through. Jump in.
It's usually whatever we're working
Dog's
on.
nostrils.
What's that?
Look at the dog's nostrils. Look at the source, which is above the. His nostrils are like going in two different directions.
Hold on, show me. Yes. It's mostly a shadow thing, Janet.
Yeah,
Like-
that's what I was thinking. Like,
It's mostly a shadow thing, but you got it.
you
This is
think that's
looking great.
Do you think it looks weird?
No, I don't.
All right, I'm gonna make that white highlight a little less. for now.
Yes, yes, just glaze it back a little bit.
Yeah.
There you go, Grant. That's starting to look good. Good job.
Jody, every time we start something new, I go, oh, I liked what we did before. And then I end up liking it better. The only exception is faces. Faces suck. They're awful. I hate them.
We're gonna go back to them in
I
August, and I bet you're gonna be surprised at how much better they are for you. I bet you're gonna be shocked.
Well, I'm just going to keep doing birds.
I think you should keep doing faces. I think you'll do better. I think you'll be surprised the next time around. But Jean, I've never forgotten when you looked the day I came in. So I used to travel and teach these classes in person in New York. And I've never forgotten the day I did landscape painting in oil. And you gave me this look like, God damn you. She was perfectly happy in acrylic. And then I showed her oil and she was like, oh,
Well, you won't convince me.
what's that?
You
Yeah,
won't convince me.
Yeah, but you've already done it all. You've already decided what your favorite is.
Oh, I'm working in acrylics on this dog, and I'm reminded every second of why I like oil so much.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so annoying.
It
I
is.
spent all morning yesterday trying to get the purple right, and I finally realized, oh yeah, acrylic always dries 3 shades
dry-
darker.
It does. Yes.
Oh,
And also it's just got a slight, it's a plasticky, and yeah, it's just got a different consistency.
totally.
But I get it. It's like, if you want it, but it can still work. It's totally, it does what it needs to do. I just finished a painting in acrylic because I thought I would do it fast. When I want to work really fast, I work in acrylic. I just finished this big poppy floral thing, and that was done in acrylic. And it would have taken me a lot longer to do it if I had done it in oil. But I just like how
I'm
oil.
working with the same paint I had this morning at 8 a.m. I still use the same color now.
Yeah, the open. You're using
The
golden
acrylic.
open. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a consistency thing. It's a consistency thing. It's just a different consistency.
Mhm.
I like the consistency, and I like the colors of oil better than I like the colors of acrylic. But I'm looking right now. I have a oil painting that's almost finished, virtually finished. And I've got an acrylic painting, which I whipped out really quickly. I'm looking at them both. They're side by side, and they're both nice, really nice. But the oil one, you can't compare it. The acrylic, you cannot compare it. It's just a luminosity that
You'd say so.
acrylic does not have. But I mean, I still think they're both neat paintings. I've done a lot of paintings in acrylic. I've sold a lot of paintings in acrylic. I work in acrylic all the time, but I don't know. It's just different.
I'm not arguing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what the difference is, but it's not different enough to be problematic. You could do a lot with acrylic. It is a preference. So Diana loves acrylic. Janet loves oil. Jean loves everything. What else?
Jean's an art whore.
Yeah, Jean loves everything and pastels. What else do you got? Grant, what about you?
I've been enjoying watercolors lately.
I'd say watercolor is your medium.
I enjoy pastels, though I haven't done them in a while. Haven't been able to make the Sunday class lately.
Oh yeah, that's a fun one. Toshween, what about you? What's your favorite medium so far?
I really am new to this, but this watercolor thing is really fun.
Ah, digging the watercolor.
I heard that I'm probably gonna like oil the most.
Yeah, we'll start up with oil in the Sunday class, in the Sunday afternoon class. Natalia actually sat through Marie's pastel landscape class and then moved right into the painting class with me. I was amazed. She was on there for 5 hours, like doing art.
I didn't start doing that, but I'd started the day with brunch, so I was already a little toasty by the time we finished the fillet class.
So, oh my God. Well, yes, it was so.
That's dedication.
It's dedication. She was looking kind of, and then at the end, I realized it must have been like 11 o'clock at night in Poland where she was. I was like, now that's, but it's also after hour 5, something does happen. You do get a little bit more zone.
Delirious.
What's that?
You get delirious.
Yeah, a little, yes, you get a little delirious after hour 5. You totally do. You get a little delirious in a good way. You stop fighting yourself so much.
I'm gonna have to run because I have to go back to work.
All right. Well, so Jean, it went well. It went well. The presentation went well.
Mhm.
Okay. So let your boss know that we can do a free lesson if they want one.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay,
Anytime, whenever they want to. She should contact me.
I will tell her.
Nice work.
Thank you. I just done made a little abstract.
Let's see. Send a picture.
I did.
Oh, okay. Where's my WhatsApp thread? Here it is. Ah. Oh, so great.
Could I sell that for hundreds of dollars?
Yes. Sell it for hundreds of dollars. Well, that's coming along, Diana. Very nice
Great.
base
Good night.
painting.
Yes.
Lovely, lovely.
Just sketched out. I'm going over to other cats now.
Yay! Are you just giving yourself a break?
Yeah.
Oh, Toshween, these are looking great. Addie, looking good. These are great, you guys. You're getting there. It's tricky. Nice work.
So is Jean trying to get her people to join?
Yeah, she said she presented yesterday and she's already got 6 people who want to sign, who are interested. That would be neat, huh?
Yeah. Grow the
Where does
empire.
she work now?
It is a head hunting, right? Is it a recruitment firm?
I think so.
It's a recruitment firm, I think, in New York. So that would be the only non-journalist but I think that's totally fine. I think that's great. Since I've got everybody here now, I'll repeat the question I asked at the beginning of class, which is, would it make more sense to start this class a half an hour later at 6:30? Is that a better, do you find that a better chance? How many people, I guess, work later than 6? Would
It's
it
hard
be,
for me to get here by 6.
what?
It's hard for me to get here by 6.
I was thinking maybe I should move this class up to a 6:30 start time.
It's an artifact of when we were in the office and like not wanting to,
get in the train.
Yeah.
I think we might move this class to 6:30 if everybody's okay with that. It's funny, I asked West Coast people if they wanted to do that. They were all like, no, it's too late. But the West Coast has a slightly more laid back work ethic than the East Coast does. So I am open to starting this a half an hour later. Addie, I guess for you, that would be 4:30 as a start time in Montana. That's all right with you? Awesome. I see you nodding. All right.
That might actually give me more time to get home from school. And
Wouldn't that be better? Like to have a little bit more time? All right. So then it's settled. We're going to start this class starting at 6:30.
I
Well,
think that is great, and I can pop in more often.
right, Diana? Because like 3:30 is better than 3 o'clock in terms of
Yeah,
East
I mean,
Coast time.
I'm working, but I'm so glad now I have this. I see how long my discipline keep that I work for 2 hours every morning.
Right. You pay it for 2 hours. So does Janet. It's working out really well.
Yeah, it's really nice to get going like that.
Yeah,
My
and to have that
favorite-
and have that be the first thing that you do.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you find that it helps you kind of be a little bit more clear in your other work?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah. I think it's kind of meditative and focusing.
Yeah.
Calmer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. I think I think drawing and painting really help put you in a more focused space so that by the end of the class, you're more focused than you were at the beginning, which can only be good as you're going into work.
Yeah, I know. I find it really helpful. It really helps me.
I'm so glad. That makes me so happy to hear.
Leah loves getting all my pictures at 5:30 a.m. Oregon time.
I'm just getting up then, so it's perfect. I have a bit, Diana, you could do the same thing. Well, actually, you and I are up at the same time. I have a picture from Janet almost every morning. You
I'm
all
like
are,
your alarm clock.
you totally are. By the way, you all are welcome in between classes to send me stuff you're working on. Send it via WhatsApp or send it via text or Facebook Messenger or however we're connected. I'm happy to look at anything. And if you send it across the class thread, then we can all look at it, right? So, it's a kind of a nice way. Jody, this is a nice way to stay in touch. Yes, lady. Come on, girly.
Jody, where are you based?
I'm based in New York.
Uh-huh. So
Yeah.
someday we might meet in person.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Who's talking? My
Janet
Zoom isn't-
Roberts.
Janet. Okay.
Actually, you know what? I can remove the spotlight because I don't think you guys need to look at this anymore. And you can
I don't
flip
really intend to come back full time into the office, but I'll be there sometimes.
Yeah, I'd be curious if anybody is planning to full time come back.
Yeah, why would you? Some people want to, but I think a lot of people do not want to. I think a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I'd skip the train and go straight to this any day.
Yeah, and that's essentially what a lot of people have done. They've replaced their commuting time because Janet, it would take a good 2 hours to, get up, get going, and get to the office. Maybe even 3. If you count like the getting up, the showering, like all of that time that you're not spending commuting or getting ready for work, you're spending painting now.
And when you're home, you only need to shower once a week, right?
Totally.
I am maintaining my cleanliness practices. I feel the need to say that.
But there's hours of time that you're saving.
Oh yeah.
Hours of time, and those hours can be, if you can put in, and so this is a really interesting thing, because then if you get the art bug, like many of the people here, you're working a full-time job. So how do you get enough art time in? My suggestion is that you have a minimum number of hours you do a week. And the minimum for people who work a full-time job doing something else is 6 hours a week, which is easy to do, right? You go to two or 3 classes, you've got it, you do it, you work on your own once. Like you can do that. Most of the time, what you will find is if you can fit in 6 hours a week, you can then double that easily and go up to 12. But you want to have your minimum be something that you can do without much effort so that you're not beating yourself up about it. I actually have I rarely need it, but I am actually working as a full-time artist. I rarely meet this, but my minimum hours a week in the studio are 12. I tell myself, as long as I get in the studio 12 hours a week, I'm fine. Now I usually paint 2 or 3 times that to, 30 or something, 24, 30, because it's busy now. There's a lot to do, but I try to give myself a minimum that's respectable enough that I know I'm showing up, and I don't beat myself up if I don't make it. Right. If I have this crazy, so you can fit. So Janet and Diana are probably logging in. Let's see, 3, 6, 9. You guys are probably logging in easily 12, 15 hours a week plus
Yeah,
your
I am
40-hour
now.
job.
I am now. And the good thing with doing it in the morning is that I don't have to feel bad about it, because I'm not stealing time anywhere. I don't.
Right. You're still paying attention to your job. You're still doing your job. You're
And,
not like,
and
yes.
it's the same hour each morning, and yeah, it's great.
I can see Tashween thinking. She's like, you're thinking, aren't you, dear? Yes. So that's your goal, Tashween, is your minimum amount of hours you should be spending doing this is 6 a week. You're easily doing that. And then what you're going to find is it's very often you'll double that. As you get more into it, you'll get 6 to 12 fairly easily. So and once you're doing that, you're actually going to get better very quickly. It really is an hours thing. It's just how much time you spend doing it, right, in between. So you can do it with a full-time job, and then you just keep phoning it in at that full-time job. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Here, I'm turning off the recording now.